You know, there's no Nabat in Ramadan, right? Do they know that?
Yeah, they know that. Maybe a reminder. They should.
Bismillah. Okay, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin ashraf al-mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala madin. So picking up where we left off. So we covered the minimum you have to do to fast, okay? The minimum you have to do to fast, which is to abstain from specific things that we mentioned, from Fajr to Maghrib, okay, with an intention. So now we're going to talk about some things that are recommended to do while you're fast. The first thing that's recommended to do while you're fast is to not overeat. Okay? Some people, right? You go through the day not eating, and then, you're just thinking about what you're going to eat when you break your fast, and then you end up all the calories you didn't eat throughout the day, you're making them up at night. So the first sunnah of fasting is not to overeat. Okay? Don't overeat. Or else you really, you nullify the reason of your fasting. Like don't gorge yourself at night when you can't eat, because then it kind of nullifies the point of abstaining from food while you are during the day while you're fasting. So not overeating is the first sunnah. The second sunnah is that it's to break your fast, okay, with dates. Okay, to break your fast with dates. It's sunnah to break your fast with dates, an odd number of dates, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, okay? And it's sunnah, if you don't have dates, some people don't have dates, right? To use water, to drink water to break your fast. If you don't have water, have something sweet. Have something sweet that's uncooked, like a piece of fruit, an apple, a grape, okay, peach, whatever you like, strawberry. If you can't find that, then have something cooked that's sweet, okay? Cookie, brownie, all right? Piece of dessert. So first, the most sunnah thing is a date, okay, an odd number of dates. If you can't find that, have some water. If you can't find that, have some fruit or something that's naturally occurring, something that's not cooked but sweet. And the last thing you can use, if you can't find anything else, is to have something cooked that's sweet, like a piece of dessert, okay? This is when you break your fast, okay? This is when you break your fast, all right? But when you have suhoor, it's sunnah also to have a meal called suhoor, which is a pre-dawn meal. Have a meal before dawn. So we said it's sunnah to start fasting and to start your abstaining 20 to 30 minutes before Fajr, right? So before that, anytime during the night or anytime during the second half of the night, have a small meal, even if it's just a sip of water or just something small to eat, okay? It's sunnah to do so. The Prophet said in hadith, he said that it's sunnah, right? He said that it's blessing in having suhoor, okay? The person who has suhoor has a blessed fast. They find energy, they find nourishment they wouldn't normally have, okay? So just having something small anytime during the second half of the night before that 20 to 30 minute period before Fajr, that's called a pre-dawn meal. You can have that, okay? And it's sunnah to have during that meal dates, okay? To have dates during that meal as well, all right? But any meal will give you the sunnah of having suhoor, but having dates as well as another sunnah, all right? Having dates as well as another sunnah, all right? Okay, another thing that's also sunnah to do while fasting in Ramadan is to recite a lot of Quran. Another sunnah action to perform while you're fasting in Ramadan is to recite a lot of Quran, okay? Recite a lot of Quran. Why? Because the Prophet ﷺ, during the month of Ramadan, he used to review the Quran with the angel Jibreel alayhi salam. So every month of Ramadan, him and the angel Jibreel would get together and review everything that was revealed up until that point, reciting to one another what was revealed to that point, practicing what was previously revealed. And so likewise, it's sunnah as well for all of us to recite a lot of Quran, okay? So recite more than what you usually recite. Look at your level and your time and just increase your reciting, the amount that you recite by a little bit or more in Ramadan, and sustain it throughout if possible. Sustaining it throughout if possible. Okay? So Ramadan is the month of the Quran. Even classically, the scholars, okay? So for example, Imam Malik, the great scholar of hadith of the city of Medina, he used to stop all other forms of teaching during the month of Ramadan and just focus on the Quran. because he said as a month of Quran, he would pause all his other teaching activities and only focus on Quran. So we should increase the amount of Quran we recite, okay? And we should also, if we can, after increasing our recitation, also like look into the meanings of the Quran, read some tafsir if we're able to. The surahs that we commonly recite during Salah, like Al-Fatiha, the shorter surahs we recite during Salah, read the tafsir of them, see what the meanings behind them are. Okay, whether we recite Arabic or not, or we understand Arabic or not. If we don't understand Arabic, read translations. And if we do understand Arabic, then you can read other books of tafsir that illuminate those meanings for us. Okay, so it's a month of Quran, and we should spend that month reciting Quran and better understanding the book. Better understanding the book. Okay, so those are some sunnahs related to fasting. Okay, some sunnahs related to fasting. Okay, he continues in the book. He says, among the things which perfect the fast is the refraining of the limbs from things which God the Exalted dislikes. The 7 limbs which need to be restrained will be discussed later. It has been said in a hadith that 5 things nullify the act of the fasting person: lies, backbiting, slander, false oaths, and looking with desire. Tamam? All right. So he says now he's talking about something else which is important to perfect the fast. So I want you guys to imagine something. All right. We have what's called fasting, a valid fast. And we have what's called being rewarded for that fast. 2 very different things. Okay? 2 very different things. All right. There's having a valid fast, a sound fast. Someone didn't eat or drink or do anything else that we talked about from Fajr to Maghrib with an intention. They've checked the box. Okay? They fasted that day. They don't have to make up the fast. It's a valid fast. They followed all the rules. Okay? Just like how, for example, someone prays. They made a proper wudu beforehand. They prayed the proper amount of rak'at. They've recited the proper things. They've done the proper motions. Everything is there. They've prayed. They've checked the box. So there's doing the worship as it's intended to be done. Okay, to check the box that you've done it. Then there is being rewarded for that worship. Okay, those are 2 very different things. Someone can worship, they can fast a sound and valid fast. They don't have to make it up, but they can get, but the amount of reward they get will be different. Okay, how one person fasts, okay, the amount of reward they get for that fast is different than how much this person gets. Okay, comes down to their sincerity, their presence with Allah Ta'ala, how many sunnahs they followed, how many etiquettes they followed. The reward will differ. There are some people who will fast a complete fast and get no reward. There are some people who will fast a complete fast and get no reward. Okay? Who are these people? He mentions it in the book. Okay? He says that among the things which perfect the fast is the refraining of the limbs from which God the Exalted dislikes. So one thing we have to make sure is that we don't do anything haram while we're fasting. That diminishes reward. Okay? It diminishes our reward. Okay? He says the 7 limbs which need to be restrained will be discussed later. That will come later in the book. I'll talk about the 7 limbs and their respective bad deeds. Okay? He says it has been said in a hadith that 5 things nullify the act of the fasting person: lies, backbiting, slander, false oaths, and looking with desire. Okay? So there are 5 things that if someone does while they're fasting, it'll completely nullify any reward they can get. They'll have fasted, but they receive no reward. Okay? They'll have spent the whole day not eating or drinking. Okay? They'll have checked the box. They don't have to make anything up. But on their scroll of good deeds, there's no actual reward. Okay? They'll wake up on the Day of Judgment with years of fasting accumulated, right? With no reward to show for it. Okay? So so what are these things that can nullify the reward completely? He talks about it. It's mentioned in the hadith. The first one is lying. So if someone is fasting and then they lie while they're fasting, it nullifies any reward from that fast. It doesn't break their fast, but it nullifies the reward from their fast. Okay? They don't have to make the day up, but the reward from their fast is gone. So lying, obviously, is what? It's saying something that's not true. Okay? Saying something that's not true. Whether it's a white lie, a big lie, a small lie, it doesn't matter. Saying something that's not true will break your fast and invalidate your fast. طيب. This includes lying, whether it's done, vocally, someone actually lies with their tongue, or someone types or writes. Okay? So typing a message that's not truthful is counted as lying. Writing something that's not truthful is counted as lying. Okay? All these things nullify the fast. nullify the reward of the fast. Sorry. Okay. So you consider to have fast, you've checked the box, but there's no reward for what you did. Okay. There's no reward for what you did. That's the first one. Okay. Lying. The second thing is backbiting. The second thing is backbiting. So backbiting also nullifies the reward of the fast. What is backbiting? Backbiting is to say anything about your fellow Muslim, okay, that if they knew you said it about them, they'd be upset. And this thing is said in a way to, like, bring them down or diminish their value or to hurt them. I'll give you an example. Okay. Someone says, so and so, who's not present here, so and so, okay, is short. So and so is overweight. So and so looks like this. So and so looks like that. So and so, their clothes are always dirty. So and so has this bad habit. They say anything about them that if they were to hear it and know what was said about them, it would upset them. Okay, all these things are considered backbiting. All right, are considered backbiting, and it nullifies the reward of your fast. The reward is completely gone. Okay, and this is extremely dangerous because a lot of people talk about nowadays, whether it's online or in person, is considered backbiting. Okay, it's considered backbiting. There's a famous story of there was someone who was there was a student who was reading one of his teachers. Okay, this is like in the modern era, not that long ago, and he was reading a section about backbiting to his teacher, right? All right. No, sorry, he was reading a book with the teacher, and it talked about a specific kind of horse. Okay, a specific kind of horse. All right, and he used a phrase that anyone in Arabic, where the student was unsure what he meant. So he asked the teacher, "What does it mean by this?" And the teacher said, "Oh, it's a lame horse, a horse that doesn't walk that well, can't really run." Okay, so the student said, "Oh, like so and so's horse," and the teacher just stopped and was like, "Look, if you're going to backbite people in this class, just get out." So even something like that, attributing slowness or lameness to someone's horse, right? Oh, so and so's car is like this, or so and so's house is like this. All of it is considered, and things that if they were to hear it, it upset them. How many of us would be happy if we heard someone say something bad about our house or our car or our clothes or anything, really, right? So we have to be really careful to make sure we don't say anything bad about anyone. Okay, say anything bad about anyone, because not only is it haram anytime, but specifically during Ramadan, it's not just haram and sinful, it will nullify your fast. Okay, and how much of what we say online, okay, is just backbiting? When we just chat online or post things on people's walls and stuff like that, a lot of it is just honestly just empty speech or backbiting.
So my question is, what if you go to an imam and you specifically are talking about an issue like the way they used to go to hospital and talk about
Yeah.
the issue, they would say like my brother stole from me,
Yeah.
somebody stole my land or something like that. So then you have to ask somebody with knowledge,
Yeah, absolutely.
So like, does that count if you go to an imam and ask them for their assistance in dealing with an issue?
So the sister's asking about instances where backbiting is considered excused. Okay, what something would normally be considered backbiting becomes excused, and you're not sinful for it. These kind of situations happen. One of which is like she mentioned, you're going to someone to consult them about how to get out of a specific situation. You have family problems, you have maybe marital issues, or you have like someone's taking your property, whatever it might be. You're just relaying facts to someone to help them resolve your issue, whether it's an imam and you're asking them for like religious counsel or advice, or a scholar, or even like an authority figure. You're in court or something and you have to relay facts. That's excused. Okay, similarly, what's also excused is like giving someone information for a specific purpose, like marriage or business, for example, right? Like, for example, I want to go into business with someone. I want to know what kind of person they are. Are they someone that's trustworthy? Are they good with money? Are they a cheat? You have to know this stuff, right? So you go to another third party who knows that guy and you ask him, how is so-and-so? All right. And he'll tell you, oh, well, like he's a little bit like this or like that. Right. He might say something that, is, is that person might not like said about them, but you have to say it. Like, this person's coming to you asking advice. Are they an honest businessman? I want to go into business with them. Tell me what they're like, And the third party says, well, to be honest, like, they're XYZ. Okay. In that case, they're also not sinful, because you have to tell the person what you know. All right. You just have to do it in a way that's, with style. There's no reason to just ruin the person's image or character completely. Just do it in a way where the message is across. Similarly, for example, for marriage. So you go to someone and you want to marry a certain person, and you go to someone that knows them. You ask about them. What are they like? Can you tell me more about them? And that person will tell you, well, he or she is like this or like that, and mention their positives and negatives, maybe, again, in a way that's appropriate, and that just gets the message across, whether they're an appropriate candidate or not. So there are cases where what's normally considered backbiting is excused, and these are some of them. But outside of these scenarios, speaking ill of others is not only harmful, not only haram and sinful, it will also nullify the reward of your fast. Okay, so we said lies and backbiting. The third thing he says is slander. So slander is different than backbiting. So backbiting is telling things that are true. You're saying things that are true about someone, okay, that they wouldn't want you to talk about. Slander is telling lies. That's even more haram. Like, you're lying and you're, ruining someone's reputation. So that's going to definitely harm your fast and nullify the reward. Okay. Similarly, he says false oaths. So taking a false oath, for example. What's a false oath, for example? A false oath is like, basically someone lies under oath. Okay. Someone lies under oath, whether it's in a court of law. Okay. Or even just day to day, someone takes an oath to Allah Ta'ala and says a lie. Okay. All these things nullify. It's haram. It's always haram. But while you're fasting, not only is it haram and sinful, but you will also nullify the reward of your fast. Okay. And looking with desire. Looking with desire also nullifies the reward of your fast. And so to look at something with haram desire. So there's halal desire, permissible desire, and there's haram, impermissible desire. What's permissible desire? Someone looks at their spouse. Okay? Someone looks at their spouse. But looking with impermissible desire, someone looks at someone they shouldn't be looking at with desire, that also nullifies the reward of their fast. And that is extremely dangerous nowadays, because how many images are out there? I mean, you can be just going to the supermarket to buy groceries, and you go up to the cashier, and there's all these magazines out there, and someone looks inappropriately, and they accrue sin and or nullify the reward of their fast. So all these things are things, these 5 things are things that nullify the reward of your fast. Okay?
When you say nullify the reward of your fast, does that mean it needs to be made up? Or
no. So if your brother asked, when you say nullify reward, does that mean it has to be made up? No, it does not. So you can, whether you have to make up a fast or not comes down to how you fast, how you fasted. Did you abstain from the things you should be abstaining from? What we talked about earlier, things entering your body cavity through your mouth, for example, sexual intercourse, masturbation, and self-induced vomiting. Okay, did you abstain from these things from dawn to maghrib, from fajr to maghrib with an intention? If you did that, your fast counts. You've checked the box. Now we're talking about whether or not you're rewarded for your fast. Okay, so you can have fasted a complete fast, so you don't have to make anything up, but your reward is gone because someone did one of these 5 things. Okay, all right. Now, obviously, if you didn't fast properly, you have to make it up, and you don't get rewarded for it. Okay, all right. So he says, among the things which perfect the fast is the refraining of the limbs from things which God the Exalted dislikes. The 7 limbs which need to be restrained will be discussed later. It has been said in a hadith that 5 things nullify the act of the fasting person: lies, backbiting, slander, false oaths, and looking with desire. Then he says, among the things which perfect the fast are hastening to break the fast with halal food. So we mentioned this. Hastening the fast means that hasten to break your fast after you're sure Maghrib has come in. All right? Don't necessarily wait an hour, half an hour, 2 hours after Maghrib has come in to break your fast. All right? And don't hasten so much such that you break your fast, okay, while you're unsure that Maghrib has come in. Okay? You're unsure whether Maghrib has come in, but you're like, it's sunnah to hasten to break your fast, and you just eat. That's also not good. You've invalidated your fast. You have to be 100% sure. You have to be pretty sure that Maghrib has come in, then hasten to break your fast with halal food. So don't eat haram food to break your fast. That also leads to having an imperfect fast. So halal food is obvious, right? Eat food that's halal, right? Meat that's slaughtered properly, not pork, not alcohol, halal food. Likewise, halal food also means food earned through halal income. So if someone, for example, is earning money in a way they shouldn't be earning, okay? It's from a complete fast to make sure you break your fast with the food you bought with lawful income, with halal income, okay? As opposed to breaking your fast with food that was attained through unlawful income, okay? And then he says, and not eating a great deal. So overindulging oneself, again, is not from a complete fast, okay? Then he says, it is good to fast often, especially on the days that Islam has considered special. God knows best and success is from him. So he says it is good to fast often, all right? Especially on days that Islam has considered special. So there are certain days throughout the year where it's sunnah to fast. It's sunnah to fast 6 days in Shawwal, the month immediately after Ramadan. It's sunnah to fast the day of Arafah. It's sunnah to fast the day of Ashura, which is the 10th of Muharram, as well as the 9th, the day before, or the 11th, the day after it. It's sunnah to fast Mondays. It's sunnah to fast Thursdays. It's sunnah to fast various days throughout the year. And in general, you can fast anytime, really. Okay? And he encourages us, the author, he says, it is good to fast often, especially in the days that Islam has considered special. So fasting is an incredibly, it's a very unique form of worship. Okay? It's a very unique form of worship. Most acts of worship are things you have to do. You have to pray. You have to give charity. You have to perform hajj. But fasting is abstaining. So it's unique. You're not doing anything. You're just actively abstaining. Okay? Not only are you actively abstaining, okay, you're actively abstaining from things that are otherwise that are either essential to your living and survival, food and drink, or things that someone really wants, like to be with their spouse. Okay? So because of the nature of fasting, because you're abstaining from things that you not only really want but also potentially need, there is an enormous amount of reward built on top of it. And for that reason, Allah said in a hadith, Allah Ta'ala says that every action of the son of Adam, its reward is multiplied. Except for fasting, its reward is with me. What he means by that is that the reward of fasting is so immense, he's not even going to tell you what it is. You're just going to find out when you meet Allah Ta'ala on the day of judgment. Okay? It's a special reward exclusive with Allah Ta'ala because you're abstaining from something that is basic human necessity or something that most humans really desire. Okay? For that reason as well, Imam Ghazali says in Bidayat al-Hidayah, in Beginning of Guidance, he says that fasting is the foundation of all forms of worship and it is the key to high ranks with Allah Ta'ala. It is the foundation of all forms of worship and it is the key of attaining high rank with Allah Ta'ala. Why is that? Because you're training yourself to leave something that you really want. So every single thing that we do for Allah's sake requires us to make sacrifice, right? You want to pray Fajr, you have to get up, Michigan winter, bed's warm, okay, you have to get out of bed, and you step on those cold bedroom tiles, for example, make your way to the bathroom, water's cold, make wudu, gotta pray Fajr, okay? Or for example, you want to come and attend class, you have to drive 20 or 30 minutes, make time out of your day, sacrifice to come here. There are things you want to do, but you have to sacrifice to do what Allah finds pleasing. So fasting is doing that at the most difficult level. You're leaving things that you not only want, but also need, food and drink. So it's a really, really incredible way of training yourself. So all forms of worship require sacrifice, but when you fast, it's a very large form of sacrifice because you're sacrificing things that you need to eat and drink, things that you really love, things that you really cannot go without sometimes. Affects your energy levels, affects your sleep, affects your activities throughout the day. And for that reason, he says it's a foundation of all worship. So if you can fast regularly, if you can fast, right, everything else becomes easier. If you can say no to your body, you can say no to your body when it wants something to eat or drink, right? Then you can say no to it when it comes to something else. It's not the case. You're training your ego, you're training your lower self. And for that reason, they say it is the foundation of all forms of worship. Okay. Then he says that It is the key to high ranks with Allah Ta'ala. Why? Because of the hadith. Allah Ta'ala says that. He says that that its reward is with Him. Its immense reward is something that Allah has kept secret to Himself. And so for that reason, Ghazali says that fasting is the key to all worship, because you are training yourself to say no to your lower instincts and your lower self. You're getting yourself used to sacrifice for the sake of Allah Ta'ala. And it is the key to high ranks with Allah Ta'ala because why? Because of the immense reward waiting for you. And because fasting builds taqwa. Like it says in the ayah where Allah Ta'ala said, كُتِبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الصِّيَامُ كَمَا كُتِبَ عَلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكُمْ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ. Fasting was made obligatory upon you, like it was made obligatory upon those before you all, so that you may acquire taqwa. So that you may acquire taqwa. Taqwa, which is the trait of the people of God. The ability to do what Allah Ta'ala has commanded you to do, and to leave that which Allah Ta'ala has told you to leave. Tamam? Allah Ta'ala, when He describes the awliya and the salihin, He says, وَكَانُوا يَتَّقُونَ. He says they were people of taqwa. They had God consciousness. They were able to stay away from that which Allah Ta'ala forbade, and they were able to do what Allah Ta'ala commanded. So for all these reasons, fasting is highly encouraged. Highly encouraged. For someone to fast regularly, even outside Ramadan, is extremely virtuous. Even if it's just, one day a month, even if it's just a couple times of the year, okay, it should be something we do regularly. Okay, it should be something we do regularly. Even just the best we can do, just a few times here and there. Just a few times here and there outside Ramadan is more than enough to get the habit started. Okay? And he ends the section and he says, God knows best and success is from Him. So that concludes the section on fasting from this book. Okay? And we'll resume where we left off in the section on prayer after we meet again after Ramadan, inshallah. I wanted to end the last few minutes talking about the levels of fasting as described by the scholars. So Imam Ghazali says, the great scholar of Islam, he says there are 3 types of fasters. People who fast, they're one of 3. Okay? The first category, he calls it the general fast, which is that all you've done is you haven't eaten or drank from sunrise to sunset, from dawn to sunset. Okay? From dawn to sunset. So all you've just done a valid fast. Someone has done a valid fast. They've abstained from everything they must abstain from Fajr to Maghrib with an intention. Maybe they're still backbiting. Maybe they're still lying. Maybe they're still performing haram. The point is they fasted. Okay? They've done the bare minimum where they don't have to make anything up. This is the very, very basic level. Level 1, he calls it. He calls it the fast of the general masses. Because most people don't even know that these things break or nullify the intention, the reward of your fast. Most people don't even know that the 5 things you mentioned nullify the reward of your fast. So they don't even avoid it, right? All they have is a bare bones fast where they've checked the box. The bare minimum. The second level he talks about is the fast of the elect. Someone studies a little bit, comes to learn about the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ a little bit, and they come to know that you don't just have to abstain from eating and drinking. You must also, for example, not backbite, not lie, not slander, not do these other things to maximize the reward of your fast. This is the second category. He calls it the fast of the elect, where someone fasts a valid fast, and they also abstain from things that can nullify the reward of their fast. So now they've fasted, they've checked the box, and they're rewarded. Okay? And they are rewarded. And the final category, he says, is when someone fasts what he calls the fast of the elect of the elect. The best kind of fast you can do at all, which is to abstain from anything that distracts you from Allah Ta'ala. So not just eating and drinking, they're going to do that. Okay? They're not going to eat or drink between Fajr and Maghrib. They're not going to commit these 5 things that nullify the reward of your fast. They're going to go beyond that. Anything that can distract them from Allah Ta'ala, they're going to abstain from it. Even if it's something permissible, they're abstaining from it. Okay? And so this is the fast of the elect, the highest level of fasting that someone can do. Okay? That can catapult them to very high ranks and stations of love with Allah Ta'ala. And so these are the 3 categories of fasting that Allah Ta'ala has described, or that the Imam Ghazali has described in his books. And they're not without reach. No one should ever think that these categories are impossible to obtain. Okay? There's a hadith, Allah Ta'ala says in a hadith Qudsi, He says, if my servant comes to me a handspan, I'll come to him an arm's length. If he comes to me walking, I will come to him running. Meaning Allah will make the road easy for you. If someone makes an intention and just starts moving, okay? They intend in their heart, okay, you know what? I'm going to try my best to refrain from everything that can distract me from Allah Ta'ala. Okay? Even if it's permissible, just Ramadan is, for Allah. Okay? If they make that intention and start moving, Allah will make the way easier for them. Because, like He said in the hadith, if a servant comes walking towards him, he'll come running to meet them. So things will become easier. Things will become easier. It's no different than, for example, when someone, if you guys have ever pushed something really heavy, like a car, right? You need one really big push to get the car rolling. But once it gets rolling, it's easy, right? You just have to keep pushing. So there's an initial push you need to get yourself moving, to get yourself over the hump. But once you get moving, Allah will make it easy for you. And so these ranks of fasting are there for us to not look at and be like, oh, mashallah, those people can fast like that. No, they're there for us to use as an example and to aspire to great things, for great things. And Allah will make it easy for us if we're sincere and we try. Okay? And with that, we'll close and take questions. If anyone has anything they want to ask in the last few minutes.
So my lips get dry when I fast. And sometimes I taste a little bit of blood. So like I just kind of freeze up a little bit. Where I rinse out my mouth. Sometimes I'm like rinsing it out. There's almost like a metallic iron. What do you do when like it's almost like unavoidable? Like it's used like you're just gonna spend like hours of your days being like, okay, I can't touch my lips. I can't. You know what I mean? Like what would I?
So the brother's asking, what do you do, for example, if you like if you're someone who is afflicted with like bloody lips or bloody gums or something like that, right? Basically, you have these things that come and can break your fast. So, first of all, unless you're 100% sure that you swallowed the blood, it doesn't break your fast. Okay? Unless you are 100% sure you swallowed the blood, it does not break your fast. Okay? All right? So if you rinsed your mouth out, consider yourself okay. All right? That's the first thing. Secondly, you can avoid things that cause that to happen. So if someone has bloody lips, they can use chapstick. That doesn't break your fast, right? Just don't swallow the chapstick. All right? If you have bloody gums, don't do things that cause bloody gums, like don't floss at certain times of the day to prevent that from happening. But unless you are 100% sure that you swallowed blood, even if you taste it, doesn't mean you swallowed it, right? You can taste something, but not swallow it. So just rinse your mouth out and get it out or spit it out, and you should be okay. Okay? You should be okay.
The concern comes from, like I taste like a little, the tiniest bit of it, and it's like, okay, so I would like spit out blood, but would still like the taste essentially would be my mouth. Now I'm like, okay, all of my saliva, I can't swallow.
No. So he's saying, what about like if he's concerned about contaminating his saliva? So his saliva is okay to swallow, okay, unless it changes from blood to a certain point where it's no longer considered saliva. So its color changes significantly, its taste changes considerably, and its smell changes considerably. In summary, unless you're 100% sure you swallowed blood, don't worry about it. Okay, don't let your thoughts race and you just cause yourself problems. Just spit it out. Okay, rinse your mouth out, and just assume that anything that you taste afterwards is just aftertaste, and there's no actual blood in your mouth. Unless you're 100% sure, just assume you're okay. Yeah. So the brother asked, what about Q-tips? Can you use Q-tips while you fast? So Q-tips, if they go in deep enough, I guess they would be considered to enter the body cavity. So best to be careful and not use them. Okay? All right? So the brother asked, what about the ruling of phlegm? Someone has phlegm, okay, while they're fasting. So phlegm, here's the thing, okay? the scholars say the following when it comes to phlegm. They say that if phlegm comes into your mouth and then you swallow it again, it breaks your fast. Okay? If it comes into your mouth and you swallow it again, it breaks your fast. They've differed about when exactly is it considered to be in your mouth. Okay? Someone, for example, they have phlegm in their nose and they, maybe they sniff or snort and it just goes straight into their throat and they swallow it. That doesn't break your fast. It never entered your mouth. It just went from nose to the back of your throat. Someone, for example, has phlegm in the back of their throat and they cough it up and they actually feel it enter their mouth. All right? If they were to swallow that, it would break their fast. They should spit it out. Okay? Now, if you're unsure whether it came into your mouth, just assume it didn't. There's no reason to assume it entered your mouth unless you're 100% sure. You guys remember the principle we talked about a million times? Certainty is not lifted by doubt. So unless you're 100% sure the phlegm came into your mouth, okay, there's no reason to think it did. All right. Now they have talked about what exactly is considered your mouth and what is not. Some of them say if you go kha, like in Arabic kha, that's if it goes beyond where the letter kha comes from, that's considered part of your mouth. And some say if it goes past the point where the letter ha is, it's considered part of your mouth. So there's a difference of opinion. Okay, ha or kha. Okay, now realistically, like when it just happens, it happens. You're not gonna be sitting there knowing, well, it kind of came out from this area, right? Just unless you're 100% sure it entered your mouth, okay, just assume it didn't. All right. Mm-hmm. So the sister asked, she said, if you have a paper cut or a nosebleed or something, how much blood can you lose before it breaks your fast? In our madhab, in the Shafi madhab, losing blood does not break your fast. So if you get cut, have a nosebleed, whatever, it does not break your fast. You're okay. As long as you don't swallow any blood, you're fine. Okay? Anything else?
I know this is something that comes up every year, but can you touch upon the ruling surrounding women breastfeeding and pregnant?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Thank you for reminding me. So the sister asked about the rulings regarding breastfeeding and fasting. Okay? So the first thing is the following. Okay? If a woman is afraid for her own life, if she's worried that she will either, for example, she's afraid for her own health, her own life, if she's afraid that if she fasted while pregnant or breastfeeding, she's afraid for her own health, she doesn't have to fast. Okay, but it has to be like an actual fear. Okay, just worried about getting a headache or just light, being tired is not enough. Like a genuine fear, a medical fear over her own life or health, or she's afraid she'll become ill or something. If she were to fast while she's pregnant or breastfeeding, she doesn't have to fast. Okay, and then, but she has to make up those days. Okay, she has to make up those days. All right, she has to make up those days. Now, if she is going to refrain from fasting, okay, if she's going to refrain from fasting over fear for the child, whether she's pregnant or breastfeeding, okay, she's afraid for her child's life, okay, whether she's pregnant or breastfeeding. In this case, again, she doesn't have to fast, but she must make it up. Okay, she must make up the day, and she must also give a handful of dry food, like uncooked rice, to a poor person for every single day of the month that she didn't fast as well. So we have one of two categories. Either she doesn't fast because she's afraid for her own health or life, whether she's pregnant or breastfeeding. In this case, she must make up the day and that's it. Or she's afraid for her child's life. Okay? She's afraid for her child's life, in which case she would have to make up the day still, and then she'd also have to pay a handful of uncooked rice to a poor person for that day because she's not fasting for someone else's health, not for her own sake. Okay? Now the question is, what if it's both? What if she's worried about herself? Tamam? For herself and for the other and the baby. If she's afraid of both, herself and the baby, she just have to make up the fast and that's it. Okay? But again, it's a genuine concern. It's a genuine concern. A doctor told her, or she has previous experience like with her own health, okay, and she's a genuine concern, then she doesn't have to fast. But again, she still must make it up. Okay. Yeah. A poor person is someone who's zakat eligible. A poor person is someone who's eligible to receive zakah. Okay. Someone who's eligible to receive zakah. So, for example, a poor person is someone who is zakah eligible. So, for example, what they make in a month doesn't cover all their needs. All right. So let's say a person makes $1,000 a month, and they need like 1,200 to cover rent, and the bills, and what do you call it, and put food on the table. They're short. Okay, that person is zakat eligible. You can give that kind of person the handful of rice. Okay.
Would you be able to give the handful of writing some money? Like how much?
In our madhab, you cannot, but in some other schools you can. Yeah, in some other schools you can. Okay. Yeah. Anything else?
You should not put water in your mouth. Let's say if your mouth is dry, but if you feel something open, you should avoid it. They just to rinse your mouth. You're going to be around someone, and the breath is kind of.
Yeah. Okay, I understand. So the auntie's asking, she said, what happens, can you basically rinse out your mouth while you're fasting? You can rinse out your mouth for whatever reason you want to, rinse out your mouth to, get something out of it, or remove a bad taste while you're fasting, or just for freshening your breath, whatever it may be. Just be careful, nothing, you don't swallow anything. If you swallow anything while rinsing out your mouth outside wudu, it will break your fast. Okay, it will break your fast. Okay. Using mouthwash. So mouthwash and toothpaste. So brushing your teeth while you're fasting or using mouthwash. Tasting anything while you're fasting is disliked. It doesn't break your fast, but it's disliked. So if you use mouthwash, okay, or you use toothpaste to brush your teeth while you're fasting, it won't break your fast. It's just better to avoid it. Okay. Now, obviously, we're talking about someone who uses it normally, not someone that swallows it. If you're going to swallow the mouthwash or swallow the toothpaste, that definitely breaks your fast. Okay. All right. Okay, so the auntie's asking, if you were to feed, for example, 5 people, would that count as 5 days of fasting that you're fed for? So each day you want to make up is 1 handful of food to 1 person. Okay, all right. So as long as you give out 5 handfuls to eligible people, it's considered 5 days. Okay. Yeah, individual days. Yeah. Okay. Any last questions? Okay.
So, there's a lot of people here in America
Yeah.
who do not have enough money to cover their expenses. So they'll maybe go to the government for assistance and things like that.
Yeah.
Are those people considered poor people?
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Do you have money to food that day? Or is it calculating your like rent and car? I don't know.
So, okay, so how to determine if someone is poor? So basically, look at their necessities. What do they need to cover their necessities to live? Okay. We're not talking about their phone payments, like they have a fancy new phone, they have payments to make on that. We're not talking about like, payments on their TV. No, like how much they need to survive. So for example, the average household, they have to pay rent, right? For example, they have to put food on the table. They might have to pay for like kids' schooling, like for their kids' tuition for school, whether it's, Islamic school or just normal school even, right? They have to, pay for clothes for themselves and their kids, right? Just things you need to survive normally. Okay. Then you look at them and you say, okay, the money you make in a month, right? The money you get in a month, is it enough to cover that? Yes or no? Okay. So then they would say yes or no. So if, for example, he or she calculates, I need 2,000 to cover all my monthly expenses. Okay. And they're only making 1,000, for example, right? They're only making 1,000. Okay. They would be considered poor. Okay. They'd be considered poor. Now, if they receive help in other ways, okay, okay, that bridges the gap. Okay. That bridges the gap. That can, if they receive help in other ways that bridges the gap, I do not think they would be considered poor. Okay. If they've met those needs, they're okay. Okay. I do not believe they'd be considered poor. Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to know someone's situation when you're just trying to give this to people. So you can't ask them their situation. You just want to give. So how do you know?
Yeah. So how would you know who's eligible or not is what you're asking. So in that case, I would say, the best thing to do is come to places that distribute charity. Okay, like for example, Al-Rahma distributes charity. Okay, other institutes distribute charity, and just ask if they know someone, and they can just take it from you and give it on your behalf. Okay, give it on your behalf. All right. Yeah. Yeah. People in today's time who are of the elect. I mean, just people of God, people that you see using their time wisely all the time, people who you look at and they remind you of Allah and the Messenger. These people can be considered people of the elect. Yeah. Yeah.
Is it considered dislike or helping someone in disobedience if you're feeding or providing food for someone who's not Muslim?
Sorry?
If you're feeding or providing food for someone who's not Muslim, is that dislike during Ramadan or?
Okay, so the brother's asking if you're feeding and providing food for non-Muslims during Ramadan, is that disliked? I don't think so. It's part of like helping people. Muslims are encouraged to help people, and it's also a way to help them, become more familiar with Islam and love it and potentially even enter it. Yeah, it's okay. Even during the day. Okay, so even during the day, you're just giving them dry food, like a food drive. Both cases. So if you're just giving them dry food, like food, you're just giving them, here, take this food and go, right? That's definitely allowed. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's no different than giving them money, okay? Now, if you're going to give them food and they're going to eat it in front, like you're giving them food to eat and they're going to eat it in front of you during the day, that would probably be a difference of opinion. Some scholars would say it's allowed. Some scholars say it's not. But with that said, if it's like purposeful, right? For example, we're doing this to encourage people to learn about Islam, and it's going to help like plant love of Islam in their hearts and stuff. It's not a bad thing, because again, there are some scholars that say that it's okay. All right, it's okay. Yeah, but just giving them food, like we just give them groceries, there's nothing wrong with that. No, because you can give Muslims groceries as well while you're fasting. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Okay. Anything else? For the fidya, for the handful of rice. Yeah? No, it has to be someone who's poor. Yeah. Any last questions? Okay, so with that we'll end, and then we will meet again, inshallah ta'ala, after Ramadan. Okay, after Ramadan, our classes will resume from where we last left off in the chapter of Salah after Ramadan, And there will be a selection of classes held in the Al-Rahma almost every day during Ramadan, whether it's Tarawih or classes after Tarawih, inshallah ta'ala. And I think these will be announced on the groups, inshallah ta'ala. And then Dhuhr today is being prayed at 2. So right now it's almost noon, almost 12 o'clock, but Dhuhr is prayed at 2 because of daylight savings. Oh, it's 1 o'clock. Oh, it's 1 o'clock. Okay. So it's 1 o'clock. All right. And so Dhuhr is going to be prayed at 2, inshallah ta'ala. So with that, we close. And we ask Allah ta'ala to make us people who fast the fast of the elect, and that He accepts all our fasts in this blessed month. Make us people who pray Tarawih with present hearts. And we ask Him to do that for all of us and our loved ones and all those that have rights upon us, and that we would like to be guided, to guide all our family members to be Muslim, and to guide our family members who are Muslim but are not practicing to practice. We ask Him to also make us people of tawfiq and taqwa. And we intend what our teachers have intended. Wa la hadratin nabi.